Yes, yes, y'all. What up, YouTube family? It's iKoniK, and I'm back. I've been gone for a little bit, but today we're going to be taking a look at my initial thoughts about the Blood Knight. Let's get right into it, people. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I know I was gone for a little bit. Just a quick update. Wanted to let you guys know I haven't been around the past week and a half or so. With the new baby, we had my in-laws coming to visit, and then my mom came to visit. It was her birthday. It was my wife's birthday the day after. And then I went on a work trip. So been pretty busy and haven't been able to upload. But I wanted to share with you guys what I thought about the Blood Knight. I haven't looked at anybody's builds. I haven't seen what anybody else is saying. I class swapped and then I had all those things kind of happen. So I've been playing a little bit here and there, just doing some daily stuff, but haven't had a real big chance to dive in. I did set myself up really well though, right from the start by being able to get a lot of the essences. I had a lot of legendaries stashed in my bag, some of those mystery legendaries you get from events. I saved up a ton of gold. We did the gambler, just a whole bunch of different things so I could get a bunch of these essences. So I actually have tried out most of what I want to try out for the Blood Knight already. And now it's just kind of working and tweaking the build. So my initial thought here is I think my prediction in my video where I was covering the update on the Blood Knight kind of holds true, at least so far. And let me tell you why I think that. So my initial prediction before I even played the Blood Knight was that it was going to land in kind of a weird spot because it's a mid-range class and we don't have any of those in Diablo Immortal so far. And why I think that's a little bit strange and maybe hindering somewhat is you can play close range, but I would say the damage isn't as good as a Crusader or a Monk or a Barb even for the most part in terms of the close range abilities. And then you do have some range attacks too as well, but those actually really are, most of them are kind of mid-range and you still have to be pretty close to your enemies on some of these. So it doesn't have the same range capabilities as a Demon Hunter, a Necro, or a Wizard. So I feel like it does play just a little bit funny. I didn't like it the first couple of days that I played it. And then now I found a build that I'm actually pretty happy with. And I do think it's actually funner than I initially thought. But I think the big problem is going to be the damage output. So the attacks on the Blood Knight feel just a little bit underwhelming, I think. And I think this has to do with the character itself actually being a little more tanky. You have quite a few different ways you can do lifesteal on enemy players or monsters. You have lots of different shields that you can do too as well. And when you combine those things together, it actually does make for a pretty tanky character that you can play. So I'll go in this and we'll take a look at some of the skills here and just tell you what I'm talking about. So we'll look at just the initial one here. Consume all your anger to transform into an unholy abomination for 15 seconds, increasing your damage done and replacing your skills with Blood Rush and Shattering Fist. The Blood Rush does 22,000 damage, and the Shattering Fist is between 17,000 and 24,000 damage. Mephitic Cloud. Release a toxic cloud around you for 6 seconds that confuses enemies, causing monsters to attack each other and restricts targeting for players. Sanguinate. Liquefy in the blood for 2.5 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 50%. Attack again to coagulate, and this one's doing 17,245 damage. Shroud of Night. Shroud yourself and nearby allies in darkness for 8 seconds, causing shadowy apparitions of yourself to emerge every 1.5 seconds to unleash your primary attack against enemies. Siphon Blood. Continually siphon blood from prey around you, dealing 6,113 damage and healing yourself for 15%. Skewer. Slam the enemy into the ground, dealing 18,000 damage. Spear Fury. Channel a flurry of polearm attacks, dealing 7,824. Swarm of Bats, you've got 7,382. Tendrils of Blood, 6,393. And then 10,645 once you pull the enemies towards you. Transfusion, absorb 28,210 damage. Wave of Blood, 19,959. Whirling Strike, 28,277. So what I actually see with this is, compared to the other characters that I played, which is everything except for Necro at this point. At this point in the game, a lot of the attacks are dealing, easily 28,000 to like 40,000 damage. And then you've got some skills that like really go bonkers that do like 50,000 plus damage. And we don't really see any of that on the Blood Knight. So I've noticed I kind of have to double up on skills. So if I go here with this one, then I'll do the bats too as well. Or I'm going to do this one and then I'll need to supplement it with my primary attack too as well. Or same here. And at least in most overworld content, for most of the characters I play, you can hit them with one skill or you can hit them with just a couple of primary attacks and they're gone. And it doesn't seem to really be that way with the Blood Knight. I wouldn't say it's like the worst damage in the game, but it definitely, I think, could use just a little bit of uptick in the actual damage. Now, the offset of that is we do have quite a bit of things that give you that tankiness and give you that shield. So this one, Siphon Blood, now instantly drains the life of nearby enemies to grant yourself or an ally a shield that absorbs damage, but it no longer heals you. Shielding an ally will also grant you a shield. Siphon Blood now absorbs the power from nearby enemies, reducing their damage. Each affected enemy provides you with increased damage. So this, a little bit of damage mitigation there, and then it can increase your damage. Siphon Blood also converts 6% of the damage done into an absorb shield, up to a maximum of 25,000 damage. Swarm of Bats now also heals you for 15% of the damage it deals. While Abomination is active, defeating an enemy heals you for 5% of your life, up to a maximum of 80% life restored. You get the point, though. There's definitely quite a few ways, I think, to be a little bit more defensive with your Blood Knight instead of offensive, which leads me to my next point of PvE versus PvP. So with some of the damage output appearing to be a little bit lower, I would say for PvE content, my barometer for measuring this is always how does it do in solo content that's scaled for multiple players. So we're looking at solo dungeons, we're looking at hidden layers, we're looking at what's your damage output against the bosses, and that's really how to measure how powerful your character truly is in this game. And with most classes, like, there's no trouble at this point in the game clearing solo dungeons, clearing hidden layers, destroying bosses. And I would say it's the single target damage that seems to be lacking a little bit on Blood Knight. Now, this brings me to my last point, that I do feel like the build that I'm currently working on got a little bit better when I got my sets in order. So at least right now, I'm using a 4-piece Grace, and I'm using a 2-piece Vithus. And before, I was still using the same set that I had on my Wizard when I class swapped. So it didn't exactly fit what I was doing in the build for anything. I think those two particular sets don't happen to work that great with it. This was Seeds of Sown and Banquet of Eyes. And I really would like to experiment with some of the other sets. I mean, Grace seems to be pretty good if you set it up right. I think Mount Banks could be absolutely crazy in PvP in terms of making if you're really going full out tank. Shao Boss probably has its place with some primary attack builds. Issatar, of course, always has a place for farming a lot of times. Whipcrack could be interesting because you don't have a ton of movement speed, so you do have to use some of your skills and essences to make your character a little bit faster. Vithus, always good for just about any character. I would like to play around with the 4-piece and just see what primary attack type builds I can make. I think one of the most interesting could potentially be Chattertooth, as you do have a couple different dash skills and essences. I have Mother's Lament, so I'm not sure about the stacking with the crit chance between these two, but this could be interesting. I think a 4-piece chatter too. I'm sorry, 4-piece gloom guide. I don't think Banquet of Eyes is necessarily geared towards Blood Knight. I'll have to play around again a bit, but at the time I didn't have any essences that were really made for it. And then yeah, Seeds of Sown, you don't really have anything channeling, except for the Siphon of Blood if you keep it the stock version. So again, I'll have to do some more testing here. I want to bring you the build that I'm currently using, and I'll show you guys that. And I'll leave you with this. I do think my opinions changed a little bit. At first, I didn't really get it. I'm like, we waited all this time for this new class, and it just doesn't feel great. There is another thing to consider, that we don't have any of our essence mastery done just yet. I don't know how much that's going to transform things for the Blood Knight, but we are missing that at the moment. We're only halfway through level 1, so once we get that fully maxed out, I think that could change things a little bit. We'll have to see. And then it's definitely a good class that offers a bit of a different playstyle for PvP. I haven't done too much with it yet. I've just been using my regular PvE build for PvP currently, and I've actually had a little bit of fun playing it that way. But I really need to put together an actual PvP build and do some more testing, and I'll have some further thoughts on that. But yeah, so far I don't think it quite stacks up. At least for me, the gems I have, the way my characters are built, it's just a little underwhelming. But I do think there is big upside. There will be more essences coming, and something that I really did appreciate, and at the same time I'm a little bit mad about, they did give us a couple of free cosmetics here for the Blood Knight, so that was cool to be able to get those. However, there's no cosmetics outside of the latest Phantom Market one, the Lilith cosmetic, that works with the Blood Knight. So I have the Sacred Wilds, which works with all my other classes, not the Blood Knight. I think it was the pre-order one, the Herodic Legacy, I want to say is what it's called. That one's cross-class and should work with everything. And then I also have the Winged Darkness, Umber Armor, and this was for pre-ordering Diablo 4. And this works on all my other classes. So to me, it seems like a little bit of an oversight that they didn't make any of these backwards compatible with the Blood Knight. And even if you look in the shop, this would be my only other gripe, is even inside of the shop, you can only get the latest cosmetic, Children of Inarius. So none of the older cosmetics appear to be available for the Blood Knight, which I think is a little bit strange. But anyway, I'm going to keep testing it out here. As always, I love class changing. I love figuring out what makes a class tick. So we'll be doing some more here with the Blood Knight, and getting a good understanding of what the best things are to use as I go along, and get some more sets here and just play around with the builds. If you guys have any questions or any tips for me, I haven't had a lot of time to play with the Blood Knight yet. So if there's anything you guys have seen, drop it down in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation around it and get some pointers if you guys know anything. And as always, if you like the content, you appreciate what I'm doing, you already know what to do. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.